December Progressive Magazines. Exercise number 13. 100 words per minute. 5 seconds. Comments. Mr. Deputy Chairman, Sir, it was a pleasure to listen to my friend, but I thought that he would launch his maiden speech as the leader of the opposition with a statement that the season for friendly opposition has started. But I am afraid he has a job requirement, and precisely for that reason he has used a very critical line. He has said towards the end that he was impressed by the finance minister's speech, but he was disappointed after reading it. My submission is, if he reflects deeply and dispassionately, he will again go back to his initial reaction. He will remain impressed, perhaps more impressed than what he thinks he should have been. I think it is unfair to say that the diagnosis is partition, and also unfair to say that remedy is going to be worse than disease. Now, I submit the consideration of the honorable leader of the opposition that history always does not solve the problems of tomorrow or today. His basic thrust has been that there is a problem. The country is facing crisis, an economic crisis, fiscal crisis, the foreign exchange crisis. It is good to confess that we have a problem. Who contributed how much is a matter of detail, that is a matter of debate. But can you escape the responsibility that is also contributed in a large measure and contributed in an irresponsible manner at a time when the economy was most vulnerable? They had political support from all walks of life. In the sense, both from the left and the extreme right. And their leader was the ex finance minister who had historically contributed in the earlier so called devaluation or whatever other kinds of reforms in the country. So, who is preaching? The devil quoting scriptures, something which we are not used to. But the job requirements for my friend could be his constraints. He talked about black money and said that the government had compromised and had not taken deterrent accounts. Would the House like to hear from him what the Janata Dal government did? Did it do anything to recover even 1 rupee of black money? So it does not lie in his face to say that enough is not being done or that the government is compromising with black money. The government is making all efforts to create job opportunities. Mr. Reddy, the basic point that you made is that your so called eighth plan was promising jobs and money to job seekers. Your government is on record. It took a deceitful action. In the election manifesto, you have said that the right to work would be a constitutional right. What steps did you take to convert that promise into reality. How many extra jobs were created? So, it was not only a political rhetoric, but it was a concrete dishonesty. Look at what you promised in the election manifesto and what was there in the president's speech. What followed after the president's speech is systematic running away from the election promises, and ultimately we ended up with no plan. You created sufficient situation for the next government of 9 months not to get off the ground so far as the plan processes are concerned. At least they tried better, and they did not promise anything as you did because they had no occasion to formally promise. Now you have said that the IMF has become an international sovereign. What is the role of the IMF? People do not lend money because they are friends. They lend money on the basis of your creditworthiness. And today, the IMF's signal is required for the rest of the world to revive faith in the Indian creditworthiness, which you have eroded first by talking aloud and irresponsibly from the housetop that the coffers are empty. Even a destitute does not say that his coffers are empty. On the one hand, you are saying that the coffers are empty, and on the other, you are trying to collect resources from all over the world. Secondly, not only you shouted that the coffers were empty, whether they were empty or not, but you took sufficient step to deliberately make them emptier. So, if you go into the history, the recent history also, that will help your memory. That will also help in moderating your reaction to the budget proposals and taking a more mature, responsible, and national oriented posture towards cooperation and the enthusiasm behind cooperation. So far as economic reforms are concerned, I am glad that he has taken note of three crises: fiscal deficit, price rise, and foreign exchange. Let me remind him that in 1987, when your party came to power, what was the price situation? And when you left, what was the price situation? And when the Congress came back to power after years, what was the track record of the government? What did the government do? We are sure that you have repeated the history of 1987. December Progressive Magazines, exercise number 14, 100 words per minute. 5 seconds. Comments. Sir, now he read out some of the measures that the finance minister has taken, the repeated double dose of devaluation, etc. The fact is that there was exchange rate situation not in line with the market. So far as Indian rupee is concerned, it had to be brought to a realistic level. After all, the external price of rupee is a function of supply and demand of rupee in the international market. By artificially pegging it high, you are creating problems for yourself. It does not solve the problem. Of course, under the floating exchange rate situation, the price gets adjusted parity, but it needed realignment substantially. And what you call double dose. Of course, there were two steps, and perhaps it could have been done in the first step. I concede that point. Maybe the finance minister wanted to have your reaction first and then go about it further. But ex post facto judgment is that the exchange value of rupee is more realistic today. Are you suggesting that it should have been retained at the same level? Reflect on that and then react. You have talked about fertilizer subsidy. Let us face this fact. The fertilizer subsidy was a load on the economy. Subsidies must have economic rationality, and all steps which you take may have historical rationality at some point. But simply because you gave one, they do not remain rational. They become irrelevant, and the fertilizer subsidy is a good case where initially it was needed. It served its purpose. It has delivered, among other things, a kind of vibrant rural economy in the Green Revolution area. But let us go deep into that. What is now the productivity of the agricultural sector in the Green Revolution, the prime beneficiary of the fertilizer subsidy? Is it going up, or has it reached a plateau or not? Who are the primary beneficiaries? Do they pay income tax? Are they not the beneficiaries of frequent procurement price rise twice in the previous government? Of course, you had your voters to reward, political compulsions you had to face. Fortunately or unfortunately, it has not helped you in this round of election, but in previous round it had helped you. The other part is that, is there other kind of subsidy for the agricultural sector? If you want agricultural sector to flourish, we need capital intensity for economic development. In the rural areas, the public distribution system a virtual non-existence. If it is brought to the benefit of that, we welcome it. We know more sugar is consumed in the urban sector, and by that more subsidy is diverted to a relatively affluent urban class, which is wrong in my judgment. Now, he has talked about the plan allocation. The fact remains that even in the context of a deep economic crisis, the financial allocation for the plan has been retained as proposed in the interim budget. We realize in real terms it is going to be less. But the fact is that we must compliment this government that we have cut corners here, there, and everywhere to see that the plan allocation which the previous government in its wisdom made is protected. In real terms, it is certainly going to be less because of the price rise, but you must give compliments to the government that despite the fiscal crisis and all other problems, despite the fact that our own planning program is still on the design board, because we have announced that the eighth plan is to begin from the 1st April 1992 because two of you have delivered a 2-year plan holiday to this country. The very fact that we have allowed that much to be retained will protect the growth impulses. But more important, within the plan allocation, priority has been given to the rural sector and to the agricultural sector. You talked about employment. You promised milk and honey. How many jobs you created? I leave it to your wisdom. We have promised in the rest of this financial year 900 million man days of jobs to be created more in the rural sector and the agricultural sector, and that is why the plan allocation is tilted in favor of the rural sector and the agricultural sector. That was one of your election promises. How much of that you delivered in terms of stepping up of investment for the rural sector? I leave it for you wisdom to reflect. Now, it is not only the rural sector, the agro industries that is going to benefit. The social sector, such as education, health, etc., will ultimately generate additional employment opportunities here. Madam, our friends talked about public enterprises. We have faithfully carried the logic of what Honorable Minister proposed with regard to offloading of public sector shares.